Thank you for inviting me to open this very special meeting. Here, we're already almost at sunset in Yerushalayim, and we'll be starting with telling everyone Chag Sameach. This is a festival of joy. It's also, by the regular calendar, the anniversary, the second anniversary of October 7th. And as we know, the Sukkah represents what life is really all about. Full of surprises. You don't know if it's going to stand up to a strong wind or who's going to be coming to your sukkah. You don't have the kinds of safeguards you think you have in a regular home. And for the last 2 years, the Jewish people have been living in one big sukkah. We are all under threat, under attack. Terrorists in Eretz Israel, terrorists at synagogues, hatred in the streets, in the universities, and yet we're commanded also to have simcha, to have happiness. I think many of us have found fulfillment and a sense of joy and sense of unity that we never felt before with each other. So in that spirit, I would just like to read two of Pirkei Tehillim from the Psalms, Psalm 23 and Psalm 27. I'll read the first one. I think everyone knows it in Hebrew, and then read the English translation. Psalm 27 is a bit longer, so I will only read a part of the Hebrew, but the English will definitely speak to everyone who is on this call. And we're all welcome to revisit King David's Psalms at any time. They strengthen us at every opportunity. Perek Chaf Gimel Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Ro'i Lo Echsar, Binot Deshe Yarbitzeni, Almei Menuchot Yahaleni. Nafshi Yeshovev, Yancheni B'maglei Tzedek Leman Shemo. Gam Ki Elech Begeit Salmavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yinachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta vashemen roshi kosi rivaya. Achtov achesed yirdefini kol yimei chayai. Vishavti beveit Adonai li orech yamim. A psalm by David. God is my shepherd. I will lack nothing. He lays down in green pastures. He leads me beside calm waters. He restores my soul. He guides me along righteous paths for the sake of the glory of his name. Even though I walk in the darkest valley, I will not fear evil, for you are with me. Both your rod and your staff comfort me. You spread out a table before me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and love follow me all the days of my life, and may I dwell in the house of God for many years to come. Psalm 27. LeDavid, Adonai ori v'yishi mimi ira, Adonai ma'oz michayai, mimi evchad. By David, God is my light and my salvation. Whom then should I fear? God is the fortress of my life. Of whom should I be afraid? When evil men came near to ravage my body, these aggressors and enemies stumbled and fell. Were a legion to encamp facing me, my heart would not fear. Were a battle to begin against me, I still retain this trust. One thing I ask of God, and for this I beg, to live in God's house all my days, to wonder at the splendor of God and visit each of his holiest places each day. For he will protect me in his shelter on a day of distress. He will hide me under cover in his tent and lift me on a rock. Now let my head be raised above the enemies who surround me. I will bring offerings in his tent with shouts of joy. I'll sing and give praise to God. God, hear my voice when I cry out. Be gracious and answer me. The message from you in my heart said, long for my presence. Yes, dear God, I yearn for your nearness. Please do not hide your face from me. Do not turn away your servant in anger. You have been my help. Do not discard or forsake me. God, you are my salvation. My father and mother may abandon me, but God, you gather me in. God, show me your way and lead me on a straight path, for my attackers are watching. Do not leave me to the will of my enemies, for false witnesses rise against me with men who radiate violence. They would destroy me if not for my faith, that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Put your hope in God. Be strong, and he will strengthen your heart. Just put your hope in God. Amen. And I close with a very brief prayer, which Jews around the world have been saying every day for the 2 years as we read different chapters of the Psalms. Achenu kol beit Yisrael hanutinim batzara v'ashivya. Our brothers in the house of Israel who find themselves in Shivya, where they are now under the tunnels. Ha'omdim ben bayam uvein bayabasha. Hamakom yirachem alehem. May God have mercy on them. V'yotziem mitzara lirvacha, and take them out from their suffering. Me'afela la'ora, from the darkness to the light. Umishibud l'geula, and from the shackles to their to freedom. Hashta Bagala Bisman Kariv, Vinomar Amen. Friends, Chag Sameach from Yerushalayim. Keep the faith.
Thank you, Yafat, for organizing this. It always blows my mind how steadfast everybody is. So if you don't know my story, I'll just make it quick. Okay, so I used to be an anti-Zionist. I used to be on the other side. I knew what it was like to be one of these like dumb ignoramus people who just repeated these slogans. So in the last 2 years, I also just like woke up to it, and I just saw like all of a sudden, like October 8th, all my Facebook feed was full of people posting that Jews were Nazis and just something didn't add up. So I did a lot of research. I dove into it. And it just so happens that it was Facebook and Instagram, they suspended my account for speaking up because I was posting about Nazis, I was posting about Islamists, and it got rid of my whole like network of friends. And now I've connected with so many Jewish people. All of my social media accounts are mostly Jewish people. And I would have to say that I'm learning so much from this collective that there's something very special about the Jewish collective, and that is unity. Like and I understand that October 7th, unfortunately, like something like October 7th had to happen in order to bring the Jewish people together again. And there are still some strays out there, right? But I could really see it and how that's like the greatest strength of the Jewish people. And the way I see the human body, like the human collective, is like a body that's getting sick, And Rudy Rockman, I believe he was the one who said that the Jewish people is like the immune system, and if the immune system is not working together, then the body will get sick. And I'm seeing that that's kind of true because there's like a cancer spreading. I see like anti-Semitism and all of this Islamism stuff spreading, and it's infecting the other healthy cells. So my role in this is because when I get sick, what I do is I support my immune system. I take loads of vitamins and I sleep well and, and that seems to work. So that's what I'm doing. I find like that's my place in the Jewish collective is helping support the Jewish people. And I'm not even sure if I'm doing it right. I'm kind of learning along the way. Like today, I made a reel about Sukkot and what it means to me as an outsider and the spiritual perspective behind it. And while making the reel, I was able to learn that it's actually really deep. So that was really cool. Um, it feels like a bittersweet, it feels like a war that we're in. Like, it's like constant. Every single day there's like something, and it's just like I applaud everybody for being so resilient, and being in this space has gotten me to like see, these good qualities that I didn't know existed, because I didn't know any Jewish people. I mean, yeah, I'm just generally speaking, of course, but I feel like I really see it pretty clearly that this pattern is clear. And I think one time I was teaching a workshop. It had nothing to do with, I think it was talking about like victim, martyrhood, martyr, perpetrator archetypes. And I was using Cartman's triangle. And it's like this triangle that was like victim, martyr, perpetrator, and how they go into this drama cycles. But I saw something. I was like, if this is the disempowered triangle, there must be an empowered triangle. So I turned the triangle upside down, and it turned into a Star of David. And so, the archetypes turned into something good. And I was like, and I had this epiphany. I was like, this is how the Jewish people were able to escape, like, survive the Holocaust, like, fight a war, build a country. And to me, that was mind blowing. Like, this is like a miraculous to me to see. And it's just, I feel like if more humans woke up to the fact that Jewish people actually have this model of empowerment in their culture, I think the world would be a better place. So that's how I feel. That's where I'm at. And I think right now there's kind of like a thorn. I feel like there's a thorn on my side. Like I feel like there's still like 58 hostages in Gaza, and it's like so drawn out, and it needs to like just stop already. But I think that once they come home, and I feel like that's soon, there's still a lot of work to do. This is like, to me, this is major what they are doing. You're seeing the blood libel, you're seeing the attacks, like how the blood libel is spreading, and how the attacks are increasing, not just for Zionists, but Jewish people in general. Like I completely see that. And I don't think I'll stop ever talking about it, because it's not going away just yet. So that's that's my spiel for today.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be speaking to you. So I am here representing Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Campaign Against Anti-Semitism is a UK charity that works to counter anti-Semitism in the UK. I hold the title of Director of Investigations and Enforcement, which means I oversee the part of the charity whose responsibility it is to take action against anti-Semitism and anti-Semites. And I have just passed my 10th anniversary with the charity, and I have to say that when I started doing this in August 2015, it would have then seemed inconceivable to me that I would still be doing it and that we would be facing the challenges that we are today. But here we are. Now, CAA really is a mixture of carrot and stick. The carrot is the work we do in education and outreach and informing people. And the stick is the work we do when the institutions that are meant to protect Jews, and in our case, British Jews, fail us. Increasingly, and especially since the 7th of October 2023, our work has become more and more stick focused and less carrot focused. We thought initially when we began that what we would be doing would be working within the system to help it understand and deal with anti-Semitism. It soon became apparent to us that our challenge was the fight against inertia, indifference, and political expediency. And we see that today more than ever, where the fight against anti-Semitism, especially in the UK, and I'm sure elsewhere, has become a political numbers game. Where are the most votes? If I deal with anti-Semitism, I win this many Jewish votes, how many other votes do I lose? And it is shocking that that an issue like this is reduced to a simple mathematical calculation like that, but it is. And so we are now taking on, in an extremely professional but aggressive way, the government, our industry regulators, our universities, the criminal justice system, and our national broadcaster, the BBC, which has pretty much just abandoned all pretense at being an objective, unbiased purveyor of news and has become a mouthpiece for Hamas. And we're taking them on because all of them, in their own way, over the last couple of years, have had the ability to put the brakes on what has become an epidemic of hatred against Jews in our society. And they all have either failed to act or have acted in ways that have made the matter worse. And what does that mean in practice? It means that we work to defend individual Jewish people who experience problems, and we work to defend the Jewish community as a whole. So increasingly, we are seeing Jews being discriminated against at work, in the workplace, sometimes subtly and insidiously, sometimes in a really explicit manner. And it's either because they are Jewish or because they have some sort of connection to Israel, and sometimes because they are Israeli. And where that happens, we now have the ability to pull together teams of lawyers who can deal with it, and we fund those individuals' litigation. We're also very good now at ensuring that artists who engage in the worst kind of anti-Semitism have their opportunities closed to them. So you're probably all familiar with Bob Vylan, the band who at Glastonbury chanted "Death, death to the IDF." We have very persistently ensured that most venues at which they were scheduled to appear have withdrawn their invitations to appear. We're doing a lot of private litigation work where previously it should have been sufficient to provide our police and our prosecutors with the necessary information to take a case forward to the courts. We have found that the will to do that is not there. So increasingly, we are acting as private prosecutors. We are assembling expert teams of lawyers, and we are taking people to court ourselves, and we are being successful every time. We have some very prominent figures at the moment who we are privately prosecuting. One is a very notorious professor, a former academic at Bristol University by the name of David Miller, a name that might be familiar to some of you, who made the lives of his students at Bristol University hell for several years with his anti-Zionist, I say anti-Zionist, they were of course anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and after he was finally removed from his position, he entered the employ of the Iranian regime, appearing on press TV and escalating his anti-Semitic rhetoric. He is now being privately prosecuted by us. And the other route we have is judicial review, where we can take an organization or an institution to court to challenge their decisions. I'd like to quickly tell you the story of a doctor in our National Health Service, a doctor by the name of Rabbi Aladwan, who has used her social media and her public appearances to wage a war of hatred against the Jewish community in the UK. She has endorsed what happened on the 7th of August. She has amplified Hamas propaganda. She has said time and time again that the UK needs to be freed from Jewish supremacy. In the wake of the fatal terrorist attack on a synagogue in Manchester last week, she posted in uppercase, globalize the Intifada. A tribunal was held a couple of weeks ago into whether or not she should be suspended from her work as a doctor within the NHS while she's investigated. They determined that she had done nothing to bring her profession into disrepute, that there was nothing that should alarm the public by her continuing to practice. Today, within the last hour, the General Medical Council, which is the body that regulates doctors in the UK, has received notice from us that we are taking them to court for their abject failure to apply their own rules and regulations to this doctor. And more will appear in due course about that. So we are pretty implacable and relentless right now in the way we are dealing with these institutions. And the final thing I would say, and I've already probably spoken for too long, is that what has become clear, I think, certainly to me, is that what we are doing is not fighting against anti-Semitism any longer. We are fighting against a way of life. We are fighting for basic decency. We are fighting for the countries that we call home. And it's a fight for good against evil. And we should all feel proud, those of us who are engaged in that fight. We're still traumatized by what happened on the 7th of October, 2023. And those of us in the UK have recently been traumatized further when the Intifada finally came to the UK. And 2 Jews were killed at a synagogue in Manchester on Yom Kippur in a hideous Islamist terrorist attack. And it's easy to think we are alone, besieged and abandoned. But what is becoming increasingly clear as well is that although it does not feel like it, the people who are trying to do this to us are still a minority. They are a very noisy, a very insistent, a very hateful minority, but they are a minority. And the signs are that the silent majority who abhors what has been going on is starting to wake up, partly out of outrage, partly because they recognize that this affects them as well. So I think my final message is that although it sometimes seems like we are winning a battle here and losing a battle here and there, this is a war, and we have so many more allies on our side than I think any of us ever actually realized. So the final message from me is that we should not despair, and we should carry on and keep fighting this evil, because history will show that we are on the right side.
Thank you so much. I love that final, everyone is clapping. Yeah, I think this is so true. And as an Israeli, I could say that we're used to that thinking of episodes within a bigger war. And even though in each episode we have challenges and sometimes we lose some and sometimes we win some, we have always won all the wars that we've been part of. And so I think this way of thinking is wonderful and so relevant to us here today. Thank you so much. It's so important and inspiring, all the work that you guys are doing. And
Thank you.
I really appreciate you joining us today.
So first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks everybody for joining this. It's been really, it's been quite a journey for the last 2 years, as I'm sure it is for all of you. I remember that on October 7th, 23, whilst we were in the shelter, I was getting messages from the army to grab my gear, and I logged onto Facebook. And I saw a live stream of a family in the kitchen. I assume most of you have seen that video. Little did I know that this was the son of a close friend of mine. And that moments before that scene that I've seen, I see a father, a mother, and 2 kids on the floor of the kitchen being threatened by the terrorists, by the Hamas terrorists, being broadcasted live from an Israeli account. It's like we were all baffled, like what's going on. So apparently what happened in that specific story, and I'll tell you because it's quite important, and then I'll hook it up all together, So moments before that video it wasn't a video, it was a live stream before they turned it on. This family, it's the Idan family, Tzachi Idan and his family, they were hiding in the shelter, they were holding the door. And Tzachi and his eldest daughter, Maayan, she was 18 at the time, they were holding the handle. I'm sorry if I get, emotional, it's very personal. So they were holding the handle, and the terrorists were able to push the barrel of the rifle through the door, and they shot the 18-year-old. She fell on the floor, and Tzachi let go of the handle of the door, which basically allowed the terrorists to grab them and put them in the kitchen, whilst Maayan was bleeding to death. And we saw this unfolding on live, broadcasted live, and ever since then, Tzachi was kidnapped to Gaza, and we were trying our best to fight for his return, only to have him come back as a corpse 500 days later. And when we were at the Shiva for Tzachi's death, because his mother Dvorah is a close friend of ours at the Sword of Gideon, she was talking about the hope that he would come back alive, and the despair when they found out that he's not going to do it. But yesterday, I sent her a WhatsApp message. I said, I want to dedicate this portion of my speech to the memory of Tzachi and Maayan. And I said, do you have a message that you want to convey to the people that I'll be speaking to? And she said, yes. She says, beyond my wish for everybody to come in prayer and pray for their safe return and the quick return of all 48 hostages that are still in Gaza, I want you all to remember that our country will be built, once they come back, will be built upon these difficulties and upon what we have endured. And that made me remember that there's a story in our past when the Second Temple was destroyed, 70 AD. Right before its destruction, one of the most important rabbis in Jerusalem realized that he won't be able to stop the destruction of the temple by the Romans. So he was able to escape through the walls of Jerusalem. His name was Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he escaped the walls and came to a city called Yavne. And he realized that upon the destruction of the holiest temple, this was the place where all Jews would come and pray. They had no other place. And this was the center of Judaism as it was back then. He realized that he had to come up with a solution. So then he started forming the concept that we know today as synagogues. Basically, the ability to pray at a synagogue rather than in a central place. So I'm talking to you right now from the city of Yavne, just so that you'll know, just to close this circle and to tell you that from every hardship that we endured as the Jewish people, we were not only able to overcome, but we had post-traumatic growth syndrome. And we are growing. We're not only getting stronger and smarter, we're learning, we're teaching, we're bringing light just by simply not succumbing to these horrible evils that are out there. And I'm really hopeful that not only that we'll see our brothers and sisters soon at home, that we will learn from this and we will stick together as a community. It's amazing to see what has happened in terms of the bond between us in the last 2 years. So I'm really hopeful this will only continue and will grow stronger. Thank you.
I just want to take 1 minute of silence in their memory, in the memory of all the October 7 victims. Thank you.
So I have to say, when you asked me to speak today, I was trying to figure out how to put into words everything together, especially today of all days. So if it's okay, I'm actually going to read something. This is all about coping ahead. So I'm coping ahead because I knew I was going to get emotional. So give me 1 second. And this is very personal, so bear with me. It's October again. But for so many of us, it has felt like October for 2 long years. 2 years of disbelief, 2 years of grief, 2 years of anger, 2 years of confusion, 2 years of losing friends and gaining allies, 2 years of war. 2 years have passed, and yet it feels like both an instant and an eternity. For those who lost loved ones, 2 years is a lifetime without them. And at the same time, it is still the first morning without their voice, the first night without their embrace. The world tells us life goes on, but for many, life has not moved forward. It has simply carried the weight. October 7 was not only a day of horror, it was also a rupture. It tore holes in our heart, the size of a country. Holes filled with names and familiar faces of strangers who became our brothers and sisters. I wrote these words in the early days, when language itself was breaking under the weight of what we had seen. A piece of infinity sadness, grabbing, holding the throat. I can't breathe. This is what trauma feels like. The trauma doesn't leave. It takes root in our body, in the nervous system. It shows up in the way we jump at the sound of an airplane overhead, the sudden blare of a siren, or even fireworks in the night sky. And it surfaces too in the words we hear around us, in the chants that echo old hatreds, or in a classroom when our very right to exist is debated as we were an abstract. As a mother, the grief sharpens into fear in ways I can't always explain. I hold my children tighter than ever, breathing them as if I could protect them by not letting go. And I watch them walk out the door and wonder in my gut if they're truly safe. I want to give them a world where they don't have to be afraid, but I cannot promise that. And then comes the innocent question, Mom, why are you crying? A question so simple and impossible to answer, because how do you tell a child that your heart is breaking, not only from the horrors of October 7th, but also from the hatred that followed? That even thousands of miles away, the chants against Jews echoes in their school, on campuses, or the streets. Because this is what trauma does. It's still language. It intrudes on the everyday, in the coffee pour, in the news refresh, in the moment the house finally goes quiet. Even in the silence, it shouts. And for us, this silence has too often been filled with not comfort, but with anti-Semitism. A reminder that the fear we carry is not only about what happened there, but about what continues to happen here. And alongside the trauma came another wound, invalidation. The silence of the world, the dismissal of our grief, the attempt to erase our pain. This is traumatic invalidation. It is when your grief is politicized, when trauma is met with, not with empathy, but with erasure. For many of us, this second wound has been as searing as the first. And I put into words then, and I want to say them out loud again. You cannot deny my history. You cannot deny my truth. You cannot deny my memory. You cannot deny my pain. You cannot deny me. I am here. This is what it means to survive. To insist on presence when the world tries to erase you. 2 years later, we carry both wounds, the horror of the day and the silence that followed. And when I traveled to Israel with a delegation of professors and trauma experts, I arrived frozen in despair because sadness was everywhere, visible in every face and every corner. When I came home, I returned to anti-Semitism and hate, and I felt hopeless. But not anymore. Because what I have witnessed again and again is that we do rise. One day at a time, we rise. One day at a time, we get stronger. One day at a time, we lead change. When facing hate, I choose to fight with compassion. I choose to stay true to my values because they will not take it away from me. Post-traumatic growth does not mean the trauma is gone. It does not mean the grief is healed. It means we learn to carry the pain in a way that always leaves room for life. It's in our DNA as a people. From exile, we build renewal. From silence, we created songs. From despair, resilience. Growth does not come from forgetting, but from doing. It is the antidote to trauma. Choosing action when despair pulls us towards silence. Growth looks like showing up for one another, refusing to be passive bystanders. It looks like creating spaces where grief is spoken and honored, where suffering is validated and not erased. Growth is the act of choosing our values again and again as a way of steady ourselves in a world that feels unsteady. And growth is remembering that while fear connects us as humanity, it is hope and courage that moves us forward. 2 years later, there's still no words, and the tears still find their way. The echoes of silence, the screams still fill the air. And yet, from our shared pain, we will turn the page and begin anew. From the death of a beast, we will hold and won't let go of hope. From the tears of loss, we will learn not only to endure, but to grow and flourish. From memory amid the ruins, we will build a future that remembers what others forget. From the tears of sorrow and the open graves, we will plant red and orange flowers. Despite the fear, we will rise up and say to the world, never again. Because to listen is to witness, and to become a witness, and to be a witness is to carry responsibility. So today, I'm asking you not only to remember, but to commit. That we will not allow denial to silence us. That we will not let hate strip us of our values. That we will be upstanders, not bystanders. For those of you who are here who are not Jewish, who chose to show up, you are a part of this commitment. Your presence is an act of courage, of solidarity, and of healing. When you stand with us, you remind us that this story is not ours alone to carry. And let me say this clearly, anti-Semitism and hate are not just a Jewish problem. History has shown us that it never ends with the Jews. When we tolerate hate against one group, we create permission to hate against another. Anti-Semitism is the connective tissue across all forms of extremism, and the bridges we build must be strong enough to resist it together. Together we can begin to build bridges of connectivity, bridges between grief and hope, between silence and voice, between one community and another. Bridges that remind us that even across differences, we can choose to see one another's humanity. May the memory of those we lost be a blessing. May our grief us not to despair, but to courage. And may we as a people and as human beings choose again and again to rise from trauma, from grief, from invalidation, to hope, to healing, to life. And may that rising begin with the safe return of every hostage so that families can be made whole again and our healing can truly take root. This is post-traumatic growth for me.